Welcome back, church, to another episode of NVLIFE at Home. We're so glad that you guys are here. And today we're going to look at how I study. Boop, 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 boop. There's music and stuff. So as you guys know, I've been the pastor here for 2 years, coming on 2 years now, and I've been a pastor in general since 2004. And so through that time, I've developed bad habits of studying and good habits of studying. But really what I found is, especially as I've been preaching, is that my job is to preach Scripture clear. That's why we're dedicated to expository preaching, meaning this. That's a big word that just means that we preach Scripture in what it says. And so we don't choose a topic, then try to verify what that topic in Scripture. I'm not going to tell you 5 ways to be a better parent and then come up with 5 ways and find some Scripture to back it. I don't believe that's a proper way to interpret Scripture. Instead, what we do is we go to Scripture and pull out what it means and apply it. And so that means that we need a strong hermeneutical method. That's just biblical interpretation. And so our goal here at the church is to teach everybody good hermeneutics. And so I thought the best way to do that today is to look at how I do that in our current sermon series. We're in Hebrews 11, and we're looking at these kind of heroes of the faith from the Old Testament. And so when we look at Hebrews, we start saying things like this. We'll intro the sermon series by telling you what Hebrews is. Hebrews is a book written to Jewish Christians around 70 AD. They were going through persecution, and we don't know the writer of Hebrews. And so that's some real basic information. But the question that you might have, and especially if you're sitting there in the pew or at home like we are right now, is how do you get that information? How do you know that we don't know the author of Hebrews or that it was written around 70 AD? How do you know that it was written in a time of persecution? And the answer is one, some of that's explained in the text, and two, we have this history of people who have studied these books that write commentaries, that write atlases, that write histories of these books. And so through Scripture and resources, we're able to kind of figure this stuff out. And so when we bring something on a Sunday morning or teach on a Bible study, what we're trying to do is bring you the most reliable information about the Scripture. But most importantly, we're just looking at the words that it says and interpreting those because we believe that the Bible is accessible. So when I study, the first thing that I do is I read the words that are on the page. I don't jump to these, which we'll look at here in a second. Instead, we jump to this. And we read it, and we try to figure out what it means. We chew on it. And so to give you guys an idea, Hebrews 11, we're in verses 5 and 6 this week. And it says this, to give you kind of a preview. By faith, Enoch was taken away so that he did not experience death. He was not to be found because God took him away. For before he was taken away, he was approved as one who pleased God. Now without faith, it is impossible to please God, since the one who draws near to him must believe that he exists, and he rewards those who seek him. So you read that and go, okay, I think I could kind of figure it out. And so the best way to start is just take those words, circle the words that are important. Who are the characters in this? Who is he talking about? Well, it's very clear that the writer of Hebrews is talking about Enoch and talking about God. It's very clear that something significant happens to Enoch because he's taken away and he doesn't experience physical death. We also know that he was approved. And because of that, the writer of Hebrews pulls out some implications. Now, without faith, it is impossible to please God, since the one who draws near to him must believe that he exists and rewards those who seek him. This all happens. The main message of this text is found in the words. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just read them. Don't bring in other things that you know. Just read the words and figure out what is he saying to you. Well, it's very clear. He's defining faith and the effects of faith right in here. Just look at what the words are telling you. It will give you the exact meaning and definition right there. And then look at it in the picture of what Scripture is. Scripture is a book of redemption, telling us the fall of man at creation to the recreation when we're all have a new heaven and earth. And in between that is Jesus coming down to redeem us as fallen people. And that's what Scripture is about. And so really look at the words, then put it into that larger narrative of redemption through Christ that is Scripture. That's where you start. First thing you should do before you get into any of these, read Scripture and just say, what is this actually saying? What are the words actually saying? The next thing is after you're done with that, Then you jump into your resources. What resources do I get? Well, it's real simple. The first thing that I would say is find the resources that you have around your house. Maybe you have a study Bible, like an ESV study Bible, and actually we'll link to our ESV, how to use the ESV study Bible right here. And so that's an easy way. It'll give you that information, when it was written, who it was written by, or things along those lines. And then, look into other resources. One of the things I always encourage people is to use this Christ-centered expositional series. This is one of the healthiest commentaries, accessible commentaries that you can get, and they go over typically one of the books of the Bible. But you start with Scripture, interpret Scripture, and it's almost like you're verifying what you read with the commentaries. The other thing I like to do is I like to go to bookstores or used bookstores. I found this book for $6. It's Nelson's Complete Book of Bible Maps and Charts. And legitimately, I get so much information from this. I obviously researched online to make sure that he was a good conservative theologian. But then you just go to this and it will tell you things, like show you the maps of where it's at, or how the book is actually broken down, how it was written. It's incredibly helpful. And then if you want to get even more into it, you can get larger commentary sets. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that off the bat. I think the ESV Study Bible does a good job, but this is MacArthur's Bible commentary. This is one I'll use every single week. But again, it starts with looking at Scripture. This is how I study. I start here and I move over to here. And then at that, we kind of figure out the big idea and apply it to our lives. So that's where we're at. That's how I study, at least the first day of studying. Hope you guys are doing well.